How's everyone doing? This is a Utopia Cast special episode. I'm Eric Hogan here with
Michael Beaupre.
And we're going to talk about the USAPL Maine End of the Year Awards for the year of 2023. So before we get into the actual awards, we want to do a couple things. Just have a couple words about the year, kind of in review. And then we also want to highlight last year's award winners as well. And then we'll kind of get into the awards that we're giving out. Maybe what you can expect in terms of if you're an award recipient, and kind of close it from there. So, with that being said, let's get into it. The year of 2022 was a great year for USAPL Maine, but I feel like 2023 was everything and then some. Do you agree, Michael?
Yeah, 2023 was an insane year for USAPL Maine.
And, especially where we were coming from 2022, I think everyone was kind of ready for another boom.
Yeah.
And I think that we even anticipated a boom, but it took off more than we could have expected.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So over the last year, USAPL Maine has soared to new heights, while the baseline has expanded to levels that maybe from the outside looking in didn't seem possible. Referencing back to last year's end of the year review, the collective was ready for an upswing based on several landmark moments and standout lifters that kind of championed this elevation. In the year of 2023, we ran 6 meets across 3 different meet directors and had representation at Raw Nationals, Open, Masters, High School Nationals, Teen Nationals, Junior Nationals, all kind of one thing, Northeast Regionals, and then even the Masters World Cup. So on top of this, participation increased quite a bit. Registered lifters from November to November, so that's November of 22 to November of 23, increased by 40.3%.
Wow.
We are actually in the Northeast. I think we just recently, we're kind of getting into the mix with like Massachusetts. I actually think we passed New Hampshire for total participants,
Yeah.
which is pretty crazy because Maine is one of the lowest populous states in the country. So the fact that we're kind of getting there for total members is pretty cool. In particular, I want to give a shout out to State Chair Andrew Graves. He's up for re-election this coming year. I personally think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to cultivate in the short time he's been leading the charge for, Maine drug-free lifters, his commitment to excellence in terms of meet quality, live stream quality, making sure he's available to answer questions for our new lifters. That stands out to me, and we know because we're close to him, but he does a lot of things behind the scenes that if we kind of listed everything that he did, we could just make a whole video on that. So Andrew, thank you for what you've done for USAPL Maine, and we wish you the best on re-election. And then the last thing I want to say is on top of this, more and more lifters are becoming referees, spotters and loaders, and in general, I feel like more people are being of a general assistance at meets, and everything's increased exponentially. So I really feel like we're in a really good spot right now for USAPL Maine, and I couldn't be more happy.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get into things. So Michael's going to read off the award criteria for the awards that we are giving. We're giving away, or I shouldn't even say giving away, the people who have earned these awards. We're doing basically everyone that we did last year besides Meet Director of the Year. We only have 2 meet directors or 3 meet directors in state. We could kind of go back and forth with that. Maybe once we start having 4, 5, 6 different meet directors in state, we can kind of return to that, and then maybe like a Coach of the Year type deal. But for right now, these are the ones that we're going to kind of do. Michael is going to read it off, and then I'll read off who the 2022 recipient was.
So we got Men's and Women's Lifter of the Year. The criteria for this is going to be lifters who competed twice or more and accomplished any or multiple of the following: represented Maine at the national level, broke state records, won Best Lifter medals.
Absolutely. And the reason why we kind of came up with that criteria, you could just say the highest dots, and we were kind of talking and we went back and forth of whether it should be that. Personally speaking, powerlifting is a sport, and we like to reward people who competed often and people who performed well in the meets that they did do, right? Because if you just do 1 meet a year, even if it's nationals, and you are just kind of chilling for the rest of the year, we personally believe it's more impressive when you can do 2 or 3 meets in a year, perform well at each meet, and have those be kind of scaled. The 2022 recipient of those was Evan Downing of Stand Strong and Marielle Opeña, also of Stand Strong.
So the junior, teen, and masters, the criteria is highest dots coefficient in each age category.
Absolutely. So that one's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
So just whoever had the highest odds.
Whether you competed once or multiple times.
Absolutely. And you can make the argument that we should do it like men's and women's lifter of the year overall. Just kind of streamline the process a little bit easier.
Yeah.
The 2022 recipients actually was Michael for the juniors, as well as Kaylee Dow. Michael, you're no longer a junior.
I'm an open now.
Yep. 2022 teen recipient was Evan Downing, so he was a double winner, and Julia Wells. And the Masters recipients were Wes Johnson and Brenna Harridge. Julia is of Stand Strong, and Brenna is of Stand Strong. Wes Johnson competes unattached.
So for Rising Star, the criteria was lifter who made a splash in their first year of competition.
Pretty ambiguous, of course, but basically who started powerlifting in the year of 2023 and who made, a sizable impact based upon their meet results. 2022 was Team Hogan's Logan Allaire.
Comeback lifter of the year, the criteria was lifter who came back from injury, poor performance, or hiatus to positive results.
Yeah, basically, so people who came back, whether it be because they got hurt, whether it be because they had a poor meet, whether they had to take time off for other reasons, came back and either A, just got back to the platform, or, made, rights and their wrongs, I guess, in terms of whatever their poor performance was. 2022's recipient was actually Michael as well. Yeah, that was his first year back into the sport after, 4 years?
3 or 4 years off.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so pretty much cut and dry there. And he came back and he qualified for nationals and this, that, and the other, so couldn't have thought of a better recipient last year. And then we have two other things we give out.
All-USAPL Maine first and second team, which is the top 10 dots in open age division for 2023 for men and women. And then USAPL Maine All-Star team, highest raw total in each weight class in the open division.
Yep, absolutely. So how we do first team is the top 5 dots in 2023 are the first team. The next 5 highest dots are the second team. Kind of like any other sport, like if you guys follow the NBA, that would be probably the best example, or the NFL. You have your all NFL first team or all NBA first team, you have your second team, and it's kind of like a tiered list. That's as objective as we can make it. USAPL Maine All-Star team rewards the totals, right? So coefficient for one, totals for the other. It's probably the best of both worlds because we feel both are important. So without further ado, how about we get into this year's award recipients?
Let's do it.
All right, so for a few of these, we actually do have candidates because they were open for interpretation. It wasn't just highest dots or anything like that. And then we have others that are quite literally streamlined, highest dots. We'll try our best to kind of fill in the gaps with what we know about some of these people. Some of these people quite literally, this was their first meet. I can think of one off the top of my head, so we don't know a ton, but we'll try to give everyone their flowers as much as we can. All right? So the first 2 awards that we're going to talk about are Men's Lifter of the Year and Women's Lifter of the Year. We'll start with the men. We had 3 candidates this year. The first being our state chair, Andrew Graves, who had a fantastic year, competed 3 times, 4 in a calendar year span, but 3 times in total. One of them being Raw Nationals, and he broke through pretty substantially. Competing 3 times in a year is very difficult, and in the spans that he did, even more difficult.
Yeah.
Candidate number 2 is right next to me. That would be Michael Beaupre. Michael did 2 meets. You did Maine States, and you did Raw Nationals. He placed 3rd overall for
Overall
Maine
at Maine States, I placed 3rd, yeah.
Yep, and then you did very well at, technically speaking, your best meet ever was at Raw Nationals.
Right, and we were doing better than I expected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your first year in the Open.
That is true.
Yeah. And then finally, we wanted to give some flowers to Kyle Lockhart. So Kyle Lockhart did 2 meets this year. Really came out onto the scene, kind of again out of nowhere, and then at Stand Strong, one of the final meets that he could do this year totaled 2,000 pounds. I think it was 2006. I think.
Yeah, 2006.
And had like a 450 something dots or something like that. At 140 kilo plus body weight, which is very difficult to do.
Squatted 804.
Squatted 804.
Benched 550 and deadlifted 650, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And he was pretty close to his final deadlift. Almost went 9 for 9 Supernova.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And he, to our knowledge, is the only person that we know of that's totaled 2,000 pounds raw, drug tested for USAPL Maine.
Yeah.
Of course, drug tested is implied, but all the other 2,000 pound totals have been technically equipped.
Yeah.
So he'd be the first person to do it raw. Fun fact, he did it without knee sleeves too, which is even more
that was crazy.
insane.
Seeing him warm up in the warm-up room was just like insane. Like all the weight on the squat, even bench. I was like, wow, this guy can do it all.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we wanted to give Kyle his flowers there. So for this year, the 2020-23 recipient for Men's Lifter of the Year is no other than our state chair, Andrew Graves. Andrew Graves is the Men's Lifter of the Year. I have wrote down here, he competed in 3 meets, 682.5 total, which is 1,504 pounds, 463.28 dots, which is number 3 in 2023, and he represented the state of Maine at Raw Nationals. You know, this was a tough choice to make between everyone, and you know, forewarning, of course, I do coach. I coach Michael and I coach Andrew. I don't feel like there's a debate with this. I feel like Andrew was way out ahead in terms of his frequency of competition. He performed well at every meet that he did, and this is not a part of the criteria, but I thought it was very impressive what he did competing through injury at Nationals and was within striking distance of a PR total. So Andrew, congratulations, you are the Men's Lifter of the Year. For the women, we have 3 very worthy candidates. We had Marielle Opeña, who was our 2022 Women's Lifter of the Year. We had Carly Cummings of Team Hogan. She really exploded. She did 3 meets, I believe, and with that improved at every single one of them, which is incredible. And then we had Julia Wells, who was as close as we possibly could get to a supernova year. She did 2 national meets. She medaled at both national meets. She won a national meet, and then competed a weight class up a couple weeks before her national meet and set a bunch of state records in a weight class up weighing light. So she had an incredible year as well. So Marielle has been on the scene for a while. She's pretty much way out ahead in terms of her coefficients and everything like that. Couldn't be a more humble lifter, you know. Talking to her, she's very unassuming, very gracious with her strength. She's not very braggadocious or anything like that. Carly had a very impressive performance at the end of the year. Took her dots from south of 400 all the way up to 407 with a 9 for 9 day, and competed multiple times as well. And we already kind of talked about Julia. So the Women's Lifter of the Year for the second time is Marielle Opeña. She competed at a very, very stiff competition in terms of depth of competition and just impressive lifters at Raw Nationals. She had a 440.87 dots, which is number 1 in 2023. She did 2 meets, the SummerSlam and Nationals, and couldn't have represented Maine, better. So I'm unsure if this is the case. I heard that she is not going to be lifting or in Maine or moving away from Maine. Not sure if that's exactly true or not. If that's the case, this award is definitely up for grabs next year. But you could probably pencil in Marielle for at least being in the running for as long as she is here.
So for the juniors male, we have Eli Yang, who competed at regionals. Placed 3rd, I believe. So
he placed 3rd overall, but he won his the junior division.
Won the juniors. And what was his dots for the year?
450.20.
That's pretty good. So yeah, no one else more deserving than Eli Yang.
Absolutely not. You know, I mean, there was a lot of junior lifters who competed this year, and none of them higher than him. Eli, just a fantastic lifter, really came into his own this year. And he's only 21, so he's going to be a threat for this award for the next couple of years. For
the female juniors, we have Kaylee Dow.
Kaylee, so Kaylee doesn't compete often. Kaylee only competed once in 2022. She was actually the recipient of the 2022 award, but she did 2 meets this year, 365.65 dots.
Highest dots.
Exactly. So congratulations, Kaylee. Congratulations, Eli.
So for Teen Lifter of the Year, we have Hunter Brissett, who competed for his first time at the Stand Strong meet.
I think that was his first meet in general. 453.38 dots on an 8 for 9 day.
Insane for a teen.
Well, and also I want to give him his flowers as well. So I have this written down here. So he weighed in at 83 kg. And he lifted in the 90 kilo division. He's only 0.5 kilograms over of the 82.5 class. And I'm not sure if he's aware of this, so I'm just going to run through what he did. He placed 2nd overall for the meet. State records in the T3, 90 kg squat, deadlift, and total divisions. His 672.5 total was only 10 kilos away from the closest weight class that he was at, 82.5, for Raw Nationals in the open division. So he almost qualified for Raw Nationals in the open division in his first meet. I'm uncertain if he is 19 until September, but he 100% qualified for Team 3 Nationals in the 90 kilo division, qualified for Collegiate Nationals in the 90 kilo division. I did see he's in college, and his 453 dots is number 9 in the year for all men in his first meet.
That's an insane performance for your first time.
Insane.
So for teen lifter of the year for female, we have Julia Wells.
Julie Wells, absolutely, pretty much straightforward there. She had a great year in terms of, she had as great a case as anyone for Women's Lifter of the Year. She's going to be in the running for that for years to come. Won a national meet in a pretty tight class, and then placed at high school nationals, and then, as we talked about, competed a weight class up a couple weeks out, or maybe it was 8 weeks out or so before nationals, and did well.
Yeah, she did great.
So that's the teens. Let's go ahead and talk about the masters. Now, forewarning, I don't have a ton of information on our masters lifters, but I'll try to do my due diligence with that. We have Ryan Montague, who was the men's masters lifter of the year. Ryan did 1 meet. That was at Maine States. Very incredible lifter. Being a master's lifter and being able to perform, in terms of trying to hold down your job. I don't think Ryan has children, and I'm not sure if the female recipient has children, but that's usually something you have to think of. And then just obviously it's harder to recover when you get older.
Right.
So the fact that he was able to do what he did was very impressive. He had a 432.75 dots, and he weighed in only 0.7 kilos over the 125 kilo weight class limit, so he's 125.7, and he qualified for USAPL Masters Nationals in the 140 class, so pretty crazy.
Wow.
And we hope to see him defend his title next year.
Yeah.
And then Miranda Derenberger is the Women's Masters Lifter of the Year. Miranda was able to make a splash in her first year back. She competed pretty frequently up until 2021. Her last meet before that was Raw Nationals in Daytona Beach in the Masters division, where she actually placed 3rd at Masters Nationals. She executed very well with that 374 dots, and just in general was a very it was a pleasure to have her back on the scene. Hopefully she's able to compete more often in the coming year. Would you like to talk about Rising Star?
Yeah, so we have the Rising Star Award. We have 3 candidates for this. We have Jackson Penland, Danny Lamarca, and Amir Brodus.
Now, Amir Brodus, want to give him his flowers. This was his first year of USAPL competition. Performed very well. He came onto the scene at the SummerSlam meet and then did the Harvest Moon meet. Did very well at both, and I don't know exactly what he qualified for, but I have to imagine he qualified for like Team 3 Nationals and stuff like that. Jackson Penland, I believe technically speaking this was his 2nd year of USAPL competition, but I wanted to give him some mention because he won a national meet, which is, impressive. He was able to kind of come into his own this year. So technically speaking, he didn't fit the criteria, so that's why I kind of, erred to the side of the people who was their first true year. But that, just wanted to make sure that people were aware of how well he did. So who is this year's Rising Star Award, Michael?
We have Team Hogan's Danny Lamarca.
Danny Lamarca, so I think that this was a very deserving award for Danny. So just looking through what she was able to do, she competed in 3 meets in her first year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
She eclipsed the 400 dot score by meet number 3, which not a lot of people do. She came within a striking distance of an open-aged nationals total, which she's on pace to do right now. And she was able to medal or place at 2 out of the 3 meets that she participated in. Along with this, she was number 4 in the year on dots, became number 8 all-time in the same metric, and she established a new state record in the squat for the 75 kilo class. This one was very close for sure between her and Amir. I think Danny deserves, not that Amir is not deserving, but I think if there's anyone who deserves it, it would be Danny. And then lastly, for the physical awards, Comeback Lifter of the Year.
Yeah. So we got Ian Brain, Ryan Pauly, and Gabe Katz.
Yeah, so we kind of went back and forth because, again, we don't know the ins and outs of every single person, but these are the ones that we were, aware of.
Yeah.
So Ian Brain injured his back pretty severely and was able to come back and do, a national meet and, did a couple meets after that.
Right.
Ryan Pauly, I believe, had a knee injury, was able to come back and lift pretty well at the SummerSlam meet. And then Gabe Katz, unfortunately, had a bomb out at Collegiate Nationals, came back at the Summer Sizzle and had a fantastic meet.
Yeah.
He did very, very well, and he's on pace to, he might, end up being the Junior Lifter of the Year next year. Incredible.
Yeah.
So who was our Comeback Lifter of the Year?
We have Ian Brain.
Ian Brain. So Ian came back, like we said, from a pretty severe back injury. And I wrote down here, he did 3 meets coming back from that. One of them was High School Nationals. So he did Maine States, kind of trained through it with a 482.5 total. He did 2023 High School Nationals where he hit a 492.5 total, so a 10 kilo PR. And then finally at the 2023 Kerry Boudreaux meet, he totaled 515 kilos. So he improved at every single one of those meets post-injury.
Yeah, that's insane.
And, we both been injured ourselves, and we understand how difficult it is to come back from injury.
Yeah,
So,
especially a back injury. I mean, that can affect you for life.
Exactly. Just your mentality changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, Ian had a great year, and we wish that he has a fully healthy year in 2024. Yeah. The last things to talk about are the All-USAPL Maine teams, that being first and second team. And I will talk about those, and then I'll have Michael talk about the All-Star team. Sound good?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so for the All-USAPL Maine teams, we're going to read off the men's team first. We're going to do first team and then second team. All-USAPL Maine men's first team is me, Eric Hogan, 67.5 kilos. We had John Lavoie, who competed at 82.5 and 90. We had Andrew Graves at 82.5. Kyle Lockhart at 140, and then Michael at 67.5. So those were the top 5 dots on the year. And then we had our second team, which is led by Hunter Brissett at 90 kilos, Eli Yang at 90 kilos as well, Michael Pinkham at 110, Zachary Kang at 75, and then Ryan Montague at 140. Congratulations to all the All-USAPL Maine members. All-USAPL Maine women's first team, Marielle Pena at 52 kilos, Carly Cummings at 67.5, Emily Grinnell at 90 kilos, Danny Lamarca at 75, and Brittany Boxer at 60 and 67.5 kilos. All-USAPL Maine women's second team, that was Julia Wells. She had meets at 75 and 82, Miranda Derenberger at 67.5, Mackie Page at 75, we had Kaylee Semino at 75, and then Kaylee Dow at 75. Michael, the All-Star teams.
For the All-Star teams, for the men's side, we have 60 kg Adam Lee, 67.5 Eric Hogan, 75 Zachary Kang, 82.5 Andrew Graves, 90 kilos John Lavoie, 100 kilos Ben Rivers, 110 kilos Michael Pinkham, 125 Amir Brodus, 140 Ryan Montague, and 140 kg plus Kyle Lockhart.
Absolutely. How about the women?
The women's side, we have 52 kilos Mariella Pena, 56 Amber Landry, 60 Brittany Boxer, 67.5 Carly Cummings, 75 Danny Lamarca, 82.5 Julia Wells, 90 Emily Grinnell, 100 Kathleen Simpson, and 100 kg plus Brittany Smith.
Absolutely. So, like we mentioned, those were the All-Star teams. Those are who registered the highest totals in each weight class for 2023. Because again, coefficients change, totals don't change. You know what I mean? So we figured it was best to, reward that as well. So with that being said, that is the 2023 end of the year awards. The only other thing that I think is pertinent is, in the future, we would love to kind of expand this into voting. You know what I mean? Right now it's kind of, it's really just me kind of doing the, not the legwork, but kind of.
You wrote this all up.
Yes, exactly. But I think in the future, especially because there is somewhat of a conflict of interest, because I coach some of these individuals, I want to make sure it's as fair across the board as I can. Opening it up to, some of the state's coaches, such as Zachary Kang, such as Shelby Downing, such as Sean Moore.
Yeah.
Michael coaches a couple people as well. Kind of getting together and voting on these things, I think would be pretty cool. And then eventually having something like an end of the year awards banquet, I feel like would be pretty cool, so we can give out these awards in person. But that's a couple years down the road. I feel like we're doing more than most in this regard.
I don't think any other state would do something like this.
Exactly. I see other states doing something somewhat similar.
Yeah.
But they don't give out actual awards. They don't do as in-depth as we do. It's just kind of like an Instagram post that these were the top highest dots. So that's everything. Hopefully you guys took well to this, and we wish you all a very strong year in 2024. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you soon.